Assalamu alaikum and a good day to all of you. Today we will try to summarize the points mentioned in lesson 6 of our course on Abyssinian logic or mantiq. So this lesson is about the classification of words. And to begin with, let us have a short opening dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma akhrijna min zulumatil wahm wa akrimna binuril fahm. Allahumma aftah alayna abwaab rahmatik wanshur alayna khazaina ulumik birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. So in the previous sessions that we have already dealt with the earlier lessons about the necessity for logic, its subject, uh, its usage and definition as an instrumental science, and just last meeting about the formulator of logic. And then after that, it was followed by a discussion on expressions or alphas in logic. So having be reminded having been reminded of these previous lessons, so let us proceed with the classification of words. This lesson is about how logic classifies words, meanings, and expressions, or alphas. So first of all, let us try to classify words. And one classification is for one word to have different meanings. That is, when a word is considered together with its meaning, it may be one of five kinds. So one classification is to identify them as monosemic, polysemic, derived, improvised, and literal and figurative. So respectively, we call it mukhtas, mushtarak, mangkul, murtajal, and hakika versus majaz. So let's first take a look at the monosemic or mukhtas. So when we say monosemic, it means to say one word, one meaning. For example, Allah, when we say Allah, we don't entertain any other meaning other than Allah Ta'ala. So far, the same with Tehran. So far, at least, as far as I am concerned, I cannot think of any other meaning other than the place, which is the capital of Iran. And another example is calcium. When we say calcium, we are referring to the element that is needed, among others, by our body. The other way of classifying one word and having different meanings is what we call as polysemic, or what we call mushtarak. When we say polysemic, we are referring to a word with multiple meanings. Example, when we say plant in English, we are referring to a living organism, and at the same time, and also in other contexts, we are referring to plant as a factory. So that is an example of polysemic. The other classification, the third classification, is what we call derived or mangkul, which means a word whose meaning was transferred over time. Example, salat originally had a primary meaning, which means supplication, or any supplication or invocation. But in Islam, it refers especially to the describe and prescribe ritual prayer that we do. with specific movements as well as the number of cycles or raka. The fourth classification is what we call improvised or murtajal, which means a word used for several unrelated meanings. These example are many personal names and place names, wherein they are used for several unrelated meanings. The fourth one is to classify a word as literal and figurative, or hakika and majaz. It's an issue of literal versus the figurative meaning. For example, the word moon literally is referring to the heavenly body that becomes visible usually when it is nighttime. And figuratively, it also signifies a beautiful face, as we can see in poems, or in moon is not referring to the physical heavenly body, rather to a beautiful countenance or face. Now, this is very important point as we are trying to classify words with different meanings. The important point is that polysemic, that is the second, and figurative words referring to the fifth can cause mistakes unless there is a clear clue or karina as to which we are referring to when we use a particular polysemic or figurative word. That's why many fallacies arise from polysemy as well as the figurative one. So take note of that one. Now, the second classification is by comparing two or more words. So that is actually synonymy, that is taraduf, versus heterogeneity or tabayun. When we say synonymy, different words but the same meaning. Whereas heterogeneity, we are referring to different words and different meanings. So as to synonymy, for example, human being and man, we are referring to one and the same. Whereas as for heterogeneity, for example, stone and human, table and pen, etc. So take note of this point. In a perfect definition, the definitions and the defined must match in meaning, but they should not merely repeat the same word. So human equals man is not a real definition because it just repeat the same word. Rather, when you say human is a rational animal, that is how you describe it, or hayawanun natiq, that way of definition is better. Now, also take note of this point. Using synonyms can create fake reasoning. For example, every man is a human being. Every human being is a growing substance. Therefore, every man is a growing substance. Here, the middle step repeats the same meaning. Ano yung middle step na yon? Yung every human being, yung human being, and then every man is a human being, and then every human being. So the middle step repeats the same meaning at all. Now, the third classification of word is to classify them either as singular or compound. Singular, we call it mufrad, and compound, we call it murakkab. Now, when we say singular or mufrad, either it has no parts or its parts do not each express part of the meaning. For example, in Arabic, bi in katabtu bil qalam, or Abdullah as a proper name. Now, as for the compound or murakkab, its parts together actually build the meaning. One good example is also the one cited just earlier, Abdullah. When we say Abdullah here, not as a proper name of a particular person, when we say Abdullah, it is actually a compound consisting of Abd and Allah, meaning God's servants. Another way, no, it's not another way. These are the kinds of compound, no, na pag-aralan natin. We have just mentioned singular and then compound or murakkab. Now, when we say compound or murakkab, it could be complete, tam, or incomplete, or naqis. When we say complete or tam, ta, alif, and then mim with tashdid. And then naqis, nun, alif, qaf, and then sad. When we say complete or tam, we mean the meaning is complete and the speaker may stop. For example, somebody says Hassan came back from a bazaar, or go to the school today. Now, how about incomplete or naqis? It means the meaning is unfinished. The listener actually expects more. For example, if somebody says Hassan is going to, and then you are waiting for the continuation because it is not clear to you where Hassan is going to. Or somebody says today the school is, we don't know whether the school is closed or open or what. So it is incomplete. Now, we have already mentioned that when we say compound, it is complete or incomplete. Now, there are further classification of complete compound. When we say complete compound, either it is predicative or khabar, or it is non-predicative or insha. So when we say predicative or khabar, it can be true or false, and it can be affirmed or denied by the listener. For example, your interlocutor says yesterday was Friday, and then you think, and then either you affirm him or not, or whether it is true or not, or to say tomorrow is Monday. It could be a different day, another day, other than Monday. The other kind of complete compound is what we call non-predicative or insha. So it is not about truth or falsehood. So what are examples of non-predicative complete compound? For example, a command, be polite, or a command to be polite. It is not either true or false. Or a prohibition, a nahi, do not accompany bad people. Or a question, istifham, what time is it? You cannot say that what time is it is true or not. Or a invocative or vocative, nida, O Muhammad, O Yasir. So these are examples of non-predicative or insha complete compound. Now, how about the different types of singular words? We have just identified the types of the compound. Now, how about singular words? One is verb fi'l, which has independent meaning and indicates tense. For example, he went or he comes. The other one is noun-like word, which has independent meaning and has no tense. Hassan eating as a gerund, no? Meaning the act of eating. And then particular or preposition or harf. It has no independent meaning. It just shows relations. For example, with, into, to, and other particles or prepositions. Now, the question is why this matters in logic. First, take note that logic avoids confusion in meaning. And it warns against polysemy and figurative ambiguity. Remember, uh, type 2 and type 4 or 5 or 6, no? Type 5, polysemy and figurative ambiguity. And logic focuses on predicative statements for proof and argument. And it helps us define and reason correctly. So this is why this matters in logic, this particular topic of the lesson. So in order to prepare for our usual exercises, we have provided review questions for us to be refreshed and be reminded of the points mentioned in the lesson. One, what are the 5 kinds in the first classification? What are synonymy and heterogeneity? What are the types of compounds? And then what are particles or adat in logic? And in order to delve deeper, here is the practical exercise for you. Write an example of non-predicative sentence that appears to contain affirmation or negation. And we will deal with it in the class, in our future session, inshallah. Okay, so next meeting, we will proceed to the summary of lesson 7, which is about concept and referent and universal and particular, inshallah ta'ala. So thank you and see you then.